First, did my compulsory military service in the Austrian army as a reserve officer, and then I went to Vienna for studying Turkish studies and Islamic studies. Wrote a master thesis in Vienna, and during the studies I learned, of course, Turkish, Ottoman Turkish, and Persian. I was very miserable at Arabic, always, and I'm still am, but Turkish and Persian just works fine for me. And then I went for PhD research to Istanbul in the early 1990s, and returned to Vienna and went to Bamberg in Germany to write my PhD thesis on Ottoman-Iranian relations, which years later we republished, expanded and republished at the Austrian Academy of Sciences. And then I joined the National Defense College in Vienna as a Middle East expert. Later on I went in 2004 to the European Union Institute for Security Studies. This was pure luck to learn about this job opening. And then I went shortly back to Vienna and got an offer for the German Stiftung Wissenschaft und Politik, the SWP, where I was only working on Iran. And in 2015 I returned to Vienna for personal reasons, and I'm ever since at the Defense College. I think short term, in the sense of political stability, they are not so big. However, they are concerned because for the first time a real political narrative has been reformulated based on human rights, not based on abstract ideas, but on precise ideas about stop of torture, stop of mistreatment, and stop of discrimination. And this common narrative is so strong that it reaches from a secular woman to the Sunni fundamentalist man, where they come up and say there is discrimination, and it is systemic discrimination, and it must be stopped, but also it can be stopped if you want to. And that's, I think, the big change. Whereas if you look only on masses of protesters and so on, there the regime won on its own turf, but it did not win where they really wanted to win, and that's the ideological level. There we have a new powerful narrative and idea thanks to Mahsa Amini. With Hezbollah, we denote the Hezbollah mindset, and these various groups, they must be sharply distinguished from the disciplined and well-organized force in Lebanon, which has its own problems, where they are part of a totally different political setup, not to be compared with Iran. Well, the Hezbollahis, as regular ideologues, are to be found on many layers of the society, and they still keep up the pretensions of a permanent revolution. So whereas the core of the regime would settle for post-revolutionary calm down, for these people the war and the revolution are ones, and they think that the society in Iran is not yet Islamic enough and needs a permanent revolutionarization of the society. Political violence goes directly back to this attitude. To read the Islamic Republic as an Islamic country, I think the problem is revolution and non-revolution, post-revolution. Whilst the whole political language seems to be conservative with all the terminology, the implementation and the way they approach it is revolutionary. This means old traditional networks can be torn down, old habits can be destroyed for the sake of revolution and for the sake of revolutionary persons who then hold the power ultimately. And that's, I think, the biggest misunderstanding, because I can understand for former communists that it's bitter and a tough issue to see that Islamic radicals are more revolutionary than one has been in 1979. Well, I started from the beginning as what is called a classical Orientalist. So it's a little bit different because you have studies in Middle Eastern languages and cultures in many cities, and I would do it again for me. It's always the combination that counts. I mean, I was always interested also in strategic questions, a little bit in economic questions, but definitely in questions of ideology. And I would also say that if you don't know your own culture and the background, you will be very confused if you approach any other culture, if there is something, if you work with concepts like culture at all. But I would say history and geography remain the bedrock of anything to detect, from the economy to modern geopolitics and economy and other issues.
Thank you very much for being here, Professor.
Welcome.
Thank you.